Today, we're going to talk about branding and the importance of obviously establishing a brand, maybe explain what is a brand, and then why it is so important to remain consistent with it whenever you post, whether it's in ads on social media or other various forms of advertising, but also those posts that you make as well.
Yeah, I think we all get kind of caught up in making sure that we're posting and we forget about, we'll put in there what we need to be posting or relevant content or things that we find interesting, and we kind of forget about branding. So we forget about our colors, we forget about our logo, and using logos is depending on what channel you're on. You don't want to do that on Instagram. You want to be a little bit careful about that so that you maintain that realism. But we have to remember your branding, especially on Facebook. All the time we see within news feeds that we'll share something or we will put in a comment, but we forget about our branding or creating an image to go with what we're talking about. And that's really important because we need to be able to look at your newsfeed and immediately identify with your brand. So if you're not doing that, you're really kind of missing the boat on brand awareness.
So for people who maybe are just starting off and maybe not completely understanding, what exactly do you mean when you say establish that brand? Like I think people know what a brand is, but how do you establish that? How do you make people aware of it?
A brand kit is what we call it. When we go into an account, there are certain things that we are making sure that we are matching up to. And one, that's your logo. That's number one, which you'll be able to pull colors out of. So typically we want to have, if for us, it's orange. Idea Creative Marketing is orange. And then we have a secondary color, which is a light blue. And then we have gray. Those are our three colors that we try and incorporate. And then we also have a fourth color, which is a royal blue. So we have a mixture, just depending on what your eyes are drawn to and what kind of content you want to use. 3 to 4 colors is a good base. So when we go into an account, we always set those colors and we make sure that we set up templates. That's where you really start for any kind of Facebook, Instagram, whatever social platform. Make sure you have templates that match the dimensions that are shown in the news feed. A lot of times Instagram is the biggest one, and then now Twitter, people will use the same image and it's not sized correctly towards what platform you're using. Instagram is really kind of bothers me the most.
I think it's the
pickiest. Square. So setting your templates. This is our Facebook, this is Instagram, this is Twitter, and then what other extra channels you're on. But making sure that you have the right color code. We use, Canva is a great starter base, I think, for anyone to do templates. So you want to make sure you know what your hex codes are for your colors, and then set up your templates and make sure no matter what you're sharing, always create the design within that template and always use your brand colors. And you don't want it to be guesswork.
Right, yeah.
Well, I mean, we've seen different shades of blues and oranges and reds especially. Again, when you look at your timeline and when somebody's scrolling through, they should know within every post visually what your brand is so that they start to associate colors or elements or fonts. All of those things are important. So logo, colors, set your templates, and then your fonts are important. So if you're going to share quotes, make sure that you're using the same fonts from your logo if you can. We have sub fonts that you can use, but make sure it's consistent. If you set a sub font, make sure you're using it consistently so that it ties into your brand. And then tone of voice, and that gets that gets overlooked a lot of times. The tone of voice, but that really defines the brands.
And I imagine with anything, especially if you're trying to start off, you have to be in love with it because you don't want to constantly change that brand, because once you get it kind of established, then you're growing off of that, right?
Right. Well, the biggest thing with tone is how do you communicate with your customers? So if I am discovering your business for the very first time and I'm on social media, then when I go into your business or I call you or I email you and that tone of voice is different, it really sets people into this spiral of where am I? Who am I talking to? It's not the brand that appealed to you any longer. And it's simply, it could be as simple as how you answer the phone. So when we go into an account, we make sure that we meet with, the customer service team, the sales team, and really streamline marketing efforts. So with your marketing efforts, you need to look at how your sales team talks to accounts, how your customer service team interacts, how do you interact, that tone of voice. So if you are playful, your business needs to be playful. If you are very serious and you don't really want to get outside of that box, and sometimes your industry may not allow for that, you just need to set the tone within your branding guidelines that says, hey, we are a more serious tone, we are playful, we're sarcastic. Twitter is really great.
Yeah.
Wendy's.
I was just going to say Wendy's.
Wendy's does a great job. Just with creating banter back and forth. If you don't want any part of that, that's perfectly fine. You don't have to do that to be appealing or for your marketing efforts. We just want to establish that from the beginning, to establish that tone, because it is a very important part of your branding.
Is it okay to change that tone over time with maybe new sales teams coming in or new employees, or maybe you have changed personality-wise? How much does that tone need to stay established and set, or is it something that can kind of ebb and flow?
I think with the past few months that, prior to the last few months, we may have had a different opinion that, yes, you can grow, everybody grows, and you want your brand to grow. That's natural part, it should be natural part of your marketing. But now we see that we can shift a little bit quicker, and we need to be responsive. So don't get so set in your branding that you don't leave flexibility for what's going on in the real world outside of your business. So you want to establish your tone, but leave some flexibility, because you're going to grow professionally. We all make mistakes. We learn from them as a business and as individuals, and that's important to make sure that we're always growing and showing people that we're growing and we're learning and we're making changes as we do those things.
Sure.
And then also that we're responsive to the environment around us.
And so when it comes to establishing that brand, as the person behind the business, is it important to have a second identity or a third identity? When you create that brand and you're focusing, and I'm trying to think of, for instance, but I would imagine it's kind of one voice and one tone, whether you're appealing to different audiences. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So when you are looking at branding, it is important to set personas. So how I speak to, if I have a large, wide audience that's 18, and then I also appeal to 65-year-olds, then I'm going to break that down into, just as you would with your market segments. So I'm going to create personas. So if I am appealing to, say I'm a college, and I'm going to appeal to high school kids, and then I'm also going to appeal to like non-traditionals, and then people that would recommend you go somewhere to school. So parents, teachers.
Sure.
Those are three very distinct messages. So you have to create personas. So I would create, your persona is really an identity that you make up that represents a market segment that you are advertising to.
Okay.
So typically creating 4 or 5 of these gives you a good idea of how you should develop your tone. But saying that you're going to have one tone and one voice is unrealistic, or it will lead to failure. You need to set a if you're going to be playful, then you can carry that playful tone over into your other market segments, but you still need to stay playful. But it's not so strict that I am using this verbiage all the time, because then you're really siloing yourself into talking to a certain audience, and that's going to be really an age group or a demographic that you're alienating all of these potential markets.
Is it fair to say too that you obviously have your age group or your demographic, but then depending on what platform you're using, whether it's social media or OTT or SEM efforts, do you change the tone on those different platforms as well?
I think so. So with some SEM, obviously, you're going to be really going towards keywords and key phrases and search phrases. And then with your videos, you want to still come across playful, but it depends really on that audience segment. If we're going on Instagram, you're looking more of like a 17, 18 to 24. It has moved up, but the primary audience is still the same. And then moving over to digital marketing, you set those demographics. So whoever I'm targeting, I'm going to create an ad specific to, with my tone, a playful tone, but a message that will really stick or appeal to whatever age demographic. If I'm doing 34 to 45, then I'm going to think of that message. I'm going to think of that persona. So maybe it's a stay-at-home mom who wants to get back into the workforce. So I would think, what would appeal to her? And then I would go on social media, and you can target specifically. You can move that over to an SEM campaign, and then you can also target based interest with OTT. And OTT is over the top. So it's any streaming device. We place advertisements, Hulu, Sling. Most people don't even have cable anymore.
Right. So people are still consuming that content and still being reached. It's just new ways of doing that. And obviously, we work with all sorts of brands and sorts of businesses and clients. So we're well versed and kind of our, because of the software that we use that is able to keep us ahead of the curve and know and kind of be proactive in some of these campaigns we do.
Yeah, it's fun. But we do offer, so I kind of go back and forth with social because I feel like that's what people want to know about. If you're going to really do any part of your marketing, people think social media. It's free to create the account, and then you do have to put some money towards paid search, and people are starting to see that because they've seen their traffic decline. But still, there's third-party apps that you can really kind of do that stuff internally. So I do talk about social a lot, but I do want people to know, the value of SEM and OTT and then traditional television placements, but then also sometimes your market should get some print advertisements. It's not dead.
Right.
There still are audiences that respond and audiences that you can reach with those traditional methods. So it's really looking at a strategy that encompasses everything and then reaches the audiences you need. It's not just social media.
Right.
It's a combination of everything hitting your audience really in other places. So if they're on social media, you're going to hit them there, and then you hit them on Hulu or Sling or whatever other streaming device, and then maybe you do your videos on digital. So if they're reading an article on Politico, your article will show up or your video will start playing. So, and then they Google search, obviously. So just having a well-rounded campaign to where you're hitting people in different methods and different placements at a frequency that they're going to remember.
Good advice. As always, any other tips or ideas before we wrap up this week's episode?
Don't piecemeal these
Yeah.
these strategies. You don't want to, I think a lot of people go and it's very appealing. They'll get a call about an SEM campaign. Right now, Google is really pushing it. If you advertised in 2009, you get a $100 ad credit. And they will walk you through how to program those. But then your social campaigns and your SEM, and then if you do television placements, it will be disjointed. So, the good thing about working with an agency, and if you do it yourself, just always make sure that you're set your branding guidelines so that you can share them with anybody that's working on any efforts that you do, so that they're always using your fonts, the correct colors, your tone of voice, your correct messaging, all of that stuff in every single advertising platform. Everywhere you go, your branding guidelines should stay consistent.
Yeah. Consistency is the key. By the way, she's Whitney Roberts. She is the Chief Marketing Strategist here at Idea Creative Marketing. I forgot to introduce us off the top. So you can reach out to Whitney or me. I'm Kevin Hunsperger I'm the Digital Marketing Manager. And just call us, 618-529-0969. Or as always, check out our website. The link is here as well. It is ideacreativemarketing.com. And we do websites too.
I just thought everybody knew us by now.
They're learning. They're learning about us. So, friends, have a great week. And if you have questions, comments, whatever the case may be, reach out to us here. Send us a message or let us know over the phone, the old-fashioned way.
We'll probably answer. I'll screen it. He'll answer.
Yes, that is true. Have a great week, everyone.
Bye.